Mercy, September 1st pay-per-view. It's your boy Icon with an NXT wrestling review for you. And before we get started, hit that notification bell, like it, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out my review for Bash in Berlin, WWE pay-per-view. But now we're talking about a little NXT. So, I didn't watch the pre-show, but I assumed there was not a pre-show match. And they said in this show, they said that there were 5 title defenses. And I was just like, wait, but the Heritage Cup isn't being defended. How the hell are there 5 title defenses? And then come to find out one of the matches was for the X Division Championship. So TNA is actually finally like getting showcased in like a good way because they're champions. They're actually defending like, you know, TNA championships on, you know, the WWE pay-per-views. I honestly feel like Triple H is low-key trying to buy TNA. And I would be perfectly fine with that because with all this talent sharing that's going back and forth, I mean, we just got Rosemary that appeared on NXT last week. Like, where's Moose? Like, can we get Moose? But let's get started. Let's kick it off. Like I said, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, put a comment down in the comment section, and let's get started with a little NXT. So the first match for this particular card was for the NXT Tag Team Championships. It was Chase U versus Axiom and what's the other guy? Nathan Frazier, that's his name. So, because, you know, I didn't care because Chase U recently, like, they just won the tag titles, and in my mind, I'm saying to myself, this is the rematch. Like, this is the, you know, the Nathan Axiom Chase U rematch. Like, Chase U just won the belts. There's no way Chase U isn't gonna retain the titles after they just won the belts, and then they fuck around and they lost the belts. So I guess I was wrong. I apologize. And it was a good match because I mean their first match was dope, but the NXT crowd also had a lot to do with that too because I love the fact that NXT is actually on the road and they're traveling to different arenas and they're doing bigger shows. The problem is the people in these arenas, they're not the NXT faithful. So they don't support the wrestlers the way that the NXT fans support the wrestlers. They didn't even do the Miss Parker chant when like Jada Parker came out. But I said, but it was still a good match. But then, you know, Axiom and Nathan Frazier, like, they got the victory. They beat Chase U. So Chase U, they've only been champions for what, a week now? Like maybe 2. And the surprise of the match was when they were trying to help Mr. Chase off the ground and going to try to pick his shape up off the floor. Ridge Holland actually attacked the other 2 guys. He knocked them onto the floor, and then he started beating the shit out of Mr. Chase. And I was just like, oh, so this wasn't as boring as I thought it would be. We got a little bit, you know, and honestly, I felt like that was coming because, one, when they lost the belts, I was like, wait a minute, they did not just lose these belts this quickly. But then when Axiom and Nathan won the belts, they left the ring. Like, usually the champions are the ones that stay in the ring, but they left the ring. And then the camera shot was on Chase U way too long, and I was like, nah, something about to happen. Yeah, so he beat him up. He beat up Duke Hudson, beat up the other guy, and Ridge Holland now, he's full-fledged heel, and he's embraced the fact that he hurts people and he injures people. Thea Hale's acting was atrocious like, in this entire thing. And then when they tried to interview Frazier, they tried to interview Holland, they were just like, oh, why did you do what you did? He just smirked and like walked away. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see what happens. You know, like Axiom and them got the belts back. Them Gallus boys, they said they want to taste. You know, the TNA guys said they wanted to taste, and we'll see how it goes. But kudos to Nathan Frazier and Axiom for getting the tag belts back, and we'll see what they do with it going forward. The next match was for the TNA X Division Championship. Zachary Winston versus good old Wesley, the artist formerly known as MSK. We never found out what MSK stood for. If you do know what MSK stands for, let me know in the comment section because that's just been bothering me for a very long time. And this, you know, I will say this because the TNA exchange, the TNA NXT Talent Exchange has honestly not gone in the favor of TNA. Like every single, like I said, Rosemary got beat, you know, by Kalani Jordan. You know, Jordan Grace got beat. Every time someone from TNA shows up, they get beat. So to see this match and first of all, to see the X Division Championship like being defended in an NXT ring was very cool to see. But finally, I mean, due to little interference because, you know, the Rascals, they were the good guys and this Wesley was the villain. There was a moment where one of the guy he was fighting, he was in the ring with his head up against the pole, and Wesley went to go get a chair, and he was going to concerto him between the pole, but then the other rascal guy came in and grabbed the chair, which, got, Wesley distracted, and then Zachary was able to actually beat him and pick up the win. So there was a surprise because a TNA wrestler finally got a W, like a credible W on a big match stage over in NXT Wrestler. So kudos to TNA for that one. Can we get Moose though? But then after that, the beef isn't over because they got the Halloween Havoc coming up. So, and then like the two rascal guys, they said that they want to fight for the NXT Tag Team Championships. But Wesley took the L. But I don't think we're done here because if the two rascal guys do end up fighting, because it's supposed to be a triple threat match to see who's the number one contenders. If the two rascal guys, get to a point where they're about to win the match and everybody thinks they're about to win the match, Wesley's going to come, he's going to interfere, and he's going to cost them the match. So, and then there's going to be another match at like Halloween Havoc or something. So this whole thing isn't over. But like I said, kudos to Zachary. And like I said, give it up to TNA. TNA Wrestling, they got themselves a big victory over the former North American champion Wesley. And I look forward to seeing how this feud progresses going forward. Next up was my future baby mama, Kalani Jordan versus Wendy Chu. And I like, this girl is gorgeous. I love this girl. But every time I see Kalani Jordan, now that I know she's officially with Carmelo Hayes, every time I see Kalani Jordan, I don't know if I want to shake Carmelo's head or like beat it or like try to square him up for her hand. But I'm like, nah, kudos to them because they do make a cute couple. Like I see them on social media all the time, and I'm like, bro, you're winning. Like I don't give a shit what they do with him on SmackDown because like it's almost like Ricochet. Like no matter what happens in the ring, like when he goes home, he's winning at life. So, but I do appreciate that. I do love seeing the two of them together, and I love seeing the journey that she's currently on with the Women's North American Championship. But during the match, I did think there was a clash of, I don't want to say clash of style, and I'm trying to say this very carefully. There was a size difference that I think hurt the match a little bit between the two of them. Because Kalani Jordan is very skinny. She's very lanky. She's not very like curvy, like in the hip and the behind area. And Wendy Chu is a little thicker than Kalani Jordan. So there were moments where it was almost like certain moves that Kalani did, the struggle of her trying to actually like lift or move Wendy Chu, I think, like caused some discomfort at some point during the match. But it still was a good match because the athleticism was definitely there. And Wendy Chu does a good job of being like the modern day Doink the Clown, and anybody that's been following wrestling since day one, like, what I'm talking about, especially like when Doink was like the happy, fan favorite clown, and then he started doing those promos where like that smile turned into a frown. That's the exact same shit that Wendy Chu is doing. But in the end, after pulling off a 450 splash, and this I thought was crazy, Kalani Jordan pulled off a 450 splash, perfect 450 splash, and then pulled her into the corner to do a split-legged moonsault. Why do you have to do a split? I understand that's your finish. Why do you have to do a split-legged moonsault when you done hit this girl with a 450 splash? That should have been the end of the match. But, they did a good job of like Wendy Chu beating her down throughout the entire match. They got the sleeper on her. And I thought she tapped because when the referee like held her hand up and then her hand dropped, the referee got up, but then she stopped and her hand was like this, but the referee stood up. And I was like, what are you doing, ref? She's clearly like she's moving. But, he was getting up to tell the timekeeper that she's still good. And then she fought out of it. Like I said, she hit the 450. She hit the I hope she keeps the 450 because that's actually, it was like the way she did it was dope. But then she got the victory, and Kalani Jordan has retained the North American Women's Championship, which I'm happy for. I almost feel like when she finally does lose the belt, it's going to be to Jada Parker. But then after the match was over, once again, just like in the Chase U match, the champion was the one that exited the ring. Like Kalani Jordan got out of the ring, and then while Wendy Chu was just sitting in the ring pissed off that she lost, Tatum Paxley came in and put a sleeper, dragon sleeper hold on Wendy Chu and passed Wendy Chu out. I feel like I understand Halloween Havoc is coming, and I understand both of them have like spooky, creepy, like sinister gimmicks, but honestly, just make them a tag team. Because both of their gimmicks align with each other to the point where a tag team would make sense. Just give them a tag team. Make them a tag team, because nobody really wants to see them fight per se, because they're both, like, I'd rather see them team up. They could be like the Alba Fire and Isla Dawn of the NXT Women's Tag Division. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, Kalani Jordan, she's looking for a new opponent now, and now Tatum Paxley and Wendy Chu have to settle their beef again, which will probably result in the two of them teaming up and being a tag team. Next up for the North American Championship, the Men's North American Championship, it was the D'Angelo family versus the Rula Obafemi. And I guess we're not announcing title matches anymore because Alicia was on the call. It's always good to see her back in an NXT ring doing the NXT calling. But she only did big announcements for like the Women's Championship and for the Men's Championship. For the other mid-card titles, they just started the match. I'm like, so we're just not announcing this stuff anymore. I actually like that about NXT, but my whole thing is, I don't care if he showed up with the entire mob. Like, D'Angelo was not beating no Obafemi, but they did do. And then like Rizzo, she looks very beautiful. Like she's wearing the dress, she got the heels on, and she looked very feminine. But she was just acting like a dude. Like she was like bent over with her knees bent, her legs spread. I was like, why are you standing like? I like the way you're dressed. You should not be like acting like that. You should be wearing a pantsuit. But they did a very good job of letting Tony. Well, first of all, Tony D'Angelo got his ass beat like in the beginning of the match. He got whooped like in the beginning. Like he got whooped throughout the majority of the match, but after a while, he did start. He did get his comeuppance. He did get his comeback, and there was a point where Obafemi actually stopped the other two goons, like Stax and the other guy. He stopped them from cheating because one of them had a crowbar that was like hidden, like under their jacket. That he took the crowbar out, but. Surprisingly enough, when Oba hit his pop-up power bomb, D'Angelo, he kicked out of it, which was a surprise because like nobody kicks out of that. And then, then he ended up having to do like a bigger one where he jumped in the air and like put him down. But, he got the victory. Of course he did because he's Obafemi, the ruler. Now, that's my boy. And like I said, when he gets to the main roster, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a huge problem. But like I said, he defeated Tony D. So I don't know what Tony D'Angelo does now because he done got his ass beat and Oba needs a challenger. Like, at this point, it's like, do you bring in Omos to fight Obafemi? The boy needs a challenger. But I said he retained the North American Championship, and he is still the ruler. Side out to Psycho Sid, R.I.P. of the Wild. Next up was Jada Parker versus Roxanne Perez. And this one was interesting because I said to myself the entire time, how do you convincingly convince me that Roxanne Perez can legitimately beat Jada Parker? Like, because of the obvious size difference, and then taking into account, there was a point where Roxanne Perez, she had some meat on her behind. Like, she was a little more curvy. She was a little thicker. She was still athletic. She was still in great shape, but she had some curves on her. She had a little size to her. Now, I don't know what she's been doing lately, but this girl is looking very thin now. Like, she's looking like AJ Lee. Like her shape is gone, her curves are gone. Like her body from like the upper waist, it's extremely slender now. So the problem is she looks smaller. So now that she looks smaller, you need to convincingly prove to me that she can beat Jada Parker. And you know why I'm saying that. So, but the way that they got over that was they injured Jada Parker prior to the match because she had when she did her match, I believe it was the qualified match for her to become #1 contender, she ended up like bruising her ribs and she caught a rib injury. Now, anybody else in wrestling, because she got this injury like 3 weeks ago, anybody else in wrestling would have been perfectly healed by now, but they sold that injury to the point where when Jada Parker showed up, she had her ribs taped. And I didn't notice. Nobody had to say anything. They didn't have to bring it up, but they did. They brought it up and they went out of their way to mention the fact that, oh, Jada Parker has her ribs taped up based on something that happened a few weeks ago. And I was like, okay, so there's the out. Like, there's the excuse and there's the out. And that was pretty much what happened. Like, the ribs got worked on throughout the entire match. Like, she was throwing her into the turnbuckle, kicking her in the ribs. Like, she was basically Roxanne was doing a lot of things, like, hurt her ribs so she couldn't breathe. And then they did a thing where she kind of, like, did it to herself because Roxanne Perez was on the outside, and Jada Parker went to give her the hip check into the barricade, and instead Roxanne moved out of the way, and Jada crashed into the barricade on her own, which further injured the ribs. And Jada Parker, for a heel, she sells her injuries very well. she sells her injuries like a babyface, but because she rammed herself into the barricade and she hurt her own ribs, when they finally got back in the ring, Roxanne easily hit that stupid pop rocks, and then she got the pin over Jada Parker. And it was a good outing for Jada Parker because that was like her first match on like a big stage, especially, I mean, I think she did a 6-man tag once where like they traveled outside of like, the Florida zone, but this was like her first like solo singles match. So she's proven herself. She proved that she can hang on a big stage. She can hang with the best of them. And we saw when she had that little face off with Roxanne Perez, and then she turned and was like, oh, who are you? Just like, oh, I see you. You can get it too. Obviously, we found out that was Julia. I didn't care because I don't know anything about Julia prior to her showing up to NXT. I didn't watch her in the indies. I didn't watch her when she was in like those other companies. The girl doesn't even speak English. So my whole thing is like, until I actually see something of significance from her, like I actually don't care that she's here. Roxanne Perez retained the title. I don't know where Jada Parker, maybe Jada Parker goes after Kalani Jordan. I don't know, but we will see what happens going forward. And now that Julia is here, Julia with a G, now that she's here, we'll see if she even shows up and says anything on NXT on Tuesday. And the final match of the night, it's for the NXT Championship. It is Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry with Trick Williams as the special guest referee. And it's not that I don't believe in Joe Hendry. I don't care for Joe Hendry because I knew he wasn't going to win. It's like, bro, it's like you're from TNA. And nah, it's just, I don't want to sound like I don't care about Joe Hendry. Like, I don't even know who he is. He fought Moose in TNA for the T. I'm like, bro, you're going to get killed. And I mean, he is a scrapping young lad. Like, I will give him that, but I don't take him seriously as like a championship contender. But the finish, I thought the finish was good because Trick Williams did try to call it down the middle, and there was a moment where he got knocked out of the ring, and then another referee came like immediately, and then when the other referee was about to count the 3 for Ethan Page, Trick came in and he stopped the referee. He was like, "Hold up, bro, that's my job." They were using the belt as like a weapon, and then when Trick picked it up and tried to take the belt out of the ring, Ethan Page kicked Joe Hendry in them like in the sack, and then Joe Hendry went down for the count. And then he hit the razor's edge on him, and then he got the 1-2-3 victory. So that was cool. And then so Ethan, because the thing is like I think that Trick Williams, the reason why Trick Williams even lost the belt and why Ethan Page became champion, NXT is about to go to the CW. I think when NXT goes to the CW, because it happens this month, they're saving Trick Williams getting his title back. They're saving that for the opening show. I feel that on that open show for the CW debut, they're gonna have Trick Williams defeat Ethan Page for the championship because they want a title change on like that new big stage, which makes perfect sense to me. But before that, we have to get Pete Dunne versus Trick Williams first, because after the match was over and Trick Williams begrudgingly raised Ethan Page's hand, Pete Dunne yanked Trick out the ring and beat his ass. So that's how the pay-per-view ended. Thank you for tuning in. So this is a lot of good stuff because although Trick had nothing to do with the pay-per-view, they still managed to keep, and it's like even by they managed to keep Trick Williams relevant because he's still like the top star of NXT. But even just by them doing that, you basically told us without telling us that Joe Hendry wasn't going to win the championship. Well, like I said, but that was it. Share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. Let me know what you thought about NXT No Mercy. Was it good? Did you like the surprises? Did you like the shocks and everything in between? And we shall continue to talk about that as well. Check out my review for WWE Bash in Berlin that's up on my YouTube channel. Check out my other reviews because I've got Kite Man up on my channel as well as Batman Cape Crusader up on my channel. And we're going to New York Fashion Week on the 14th of September. So please keep an eye out for that as well and continue to subscribe because we're about 40 subscriptions away we're less than 40 subscription away from reaching 1,000. And for the love of God, like I love you guys, and let's get, if there are 36 people out there watching this video who haven't subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me get that 1K, and I'll keep pumping all this good stuff out for you guys as well so we can all talk about it and enjoy it. So until next time, guys, for some more NXT action, I guess we'll see you at NXT Halloween Havoc. Until then, let's whoop that trick, and we're out this.